Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic: who is the most overrated person in history? My sister. I do stuff too, Mom. I feel this in my soul. Me too, I don't even have siblings. But Mom, he whispered, can't you see? You never seem to notice me. I try my best each night and day. But all the same you never say a single word of pride and joy. A word of love for me, your boy. Your only son, who loves you dear. And wants you close to hold him near. To say he'll find a finer way. And tell him all will be okay. That's all I want. It isn't fair. She sighed and said, I do not care. Tutankhamun, or King Tut as he is sometimes referred. He was a boy farouche that only reached the age of maybe 18, born from incest and suffered scoliosis, a bad foot, walked with a cane, and contracted malaria, and likely died from an infection from a broken leg. Also when he came to power married his sister and had 2 miscarriages. This poor boy had lots of power, but was sick all his life and likely his advisors made all decisions for him and eventually succeeded him. Also had a very short reign that ended with Egypt at war, they would lose under his successor. Sadly, the royal family in Egypt at that time frequently married their half-siblings. The last doc I saw on Tut theorized that he broke his foot in a chariot race. He's not remembered because he was a great ruler but because his pristine tomb was found. Tomb raiders have destroyed and stolen the contents of so many tombs that finding his tomb taught historians a great deal. So Tut wasn't the big deal, finding his intact tomb was. IRC his tomb was also very plain when compared to the tombs of more important rulers. The reason we care so much about him is because of his incredibly well-preserved tomb. And it was only so well-preserved because he was such a minor pharaoh that everyone forgot where his tomb was and another pharaoh built on top of it, concealing the entrance. Guy Fawkes. He was a minor cog in a conspiracy that he didn't even know all that much about. He was tasked with a dead simple objective, and he failed. He gave up the names of all the co-conspirators that he knew about, but most of them operated on a much higher level than this chump, so they got off mostly scot-free. He had one job and he fucked up 3, basically. He doesn't deserve the pages that his story is written on in history books. I 100% thought this, said Guy Fawkes, and then I read the rest and thought I missed some huge news. I would watch a movie about Guy Fawkes only if it was played by Guy Fawkes. Guy Fawkes night I still can't work out if most people are celebrating his attempt or his failure. It's catchier than its original name, Gunpowder Treason Day, which sounds more like a suggestion than commemoration. I'm American and I've never really understood what exactly it was celebrating. In fairness, I can't blame him for snitching on his compatriots. They had time and lots of very pointy and / or hot instruments, and knowledge on how to keep someone alive quite a while with such things inserted in rude places. Yay, Reddit's talking like they wouldn't sell out their mom the second a red hot iron came within a foot of their face. Jack the Ripper. More overhyped, not overrated. But he only killed 5 people. It's not like he's the original Dexter. Yay, I really hate this story. Overtold, over-theorized. Only reason no one has pinpointed him was because it was in 1888 before crime investigation matured and they didn't have the technology. Now back to my hunch. Have you seen the pictures of his victims' bodies? It makes sense he became so notorious. Most people at that time probably would never have seen such mutilation even in war. Edit, so people will stop asking, here are originals, click the pictures to expand, and here is one of them recolorized. View at your own risk. The picture of the lady on the bed in the corner of the room is something you can't forget. Looked like a pack of wild animals did the killing. Everybody talks about Jack the Ripper. Nobody talks about the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. It just doesn't have the same kind of ring to it. Everybody talks about the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. Nobody talks about the Scratto Strangler. Beyonce. Her host, the wife of the owner of the Warriors, leans over her to ask Jay-Z what he wants to drink. People see it, harass the woman to no end, and make it into a power moment for Beyonce. Don't get me wrong, she's a great artist, but people act like she's a god. Edit, to everyone saying it's not her, it's her fan base, would you kindly look up the definition of overrated? Her fans turn me off so much. I would like Beyonce if it wasn't for her fans. She's talented, just not as much as her fans make her out to be. You say one semi-negative thing about her and the Beehive loses their minds. Just look at some of the replies to this. People are rushing to say it's not her fault. It's not a knock on her, it's a knock on the fans who hold her in insane esteem. Didn't she close off an entire hospital wing when she had her first baby? Her security goons wouldn't let a dad in who was there to see his wife and premature baby who happened to be on the same floor as her. I don't know if that's true or not, but I blame the hospital if it is. Why do they allow people to shut down entire floors again? Coco Chanel. I have recently only just found out she was a confirmed Nazi agent who went under the code name Westminster. She spent most of WW2 in Paris in the Ritz sleeping with Nazi officers and had direct contact to Himmler and Goebbels. She even insisted all Jewish directors of her brand be removed. Edit, I can't spell. Haha, I searched Coco Chanel on Google. One of the top results was her life in pictures. Super weird that it totally blanks out anything around 1930 to 1950. Almeo, what a massive jump from 1921 to 1954. Also the perfume smells weird. Ted Bundy. People claim that in terms of serial killers he had high intelligence. He didn't. He dropped out of law school because he couldn't keep up with his peers. So he was of average intelligence. He's just being compared with other serial killers who overall skew lower in terms of IQ. And no, his crimes weren't clever. He broke into the basement of a sorority house and bludgeoned 2 girls to death with a log from the fireplace while they were sleeping. The only reason he wasn't caught sooner was because the detectives working on the case were idiots and ignored multiple credible reports from Bundy's ex-wife. Stop romanticizing the guy. Outside of how nasty it is to hype up freaking serial killers, he, like all serial killers, was a gigantic turd sandwich. He wasn't smart, and his crimes weren't elegant or super planned out 4D chess murders. Don't believe the stupid dumb Netflix movie. Oh, and he admitted that after he tossed the bodies into a field because they were too badly decomposed to keep them in his house, he'd still go out there and sleep with them despite the fact that they were rotting and likely full of maggots and etc. Dude was sick. People need to stop romanticizing crime. Edit, for people picking apart the law school comment, what I said came directly from Ted Bundy's mouth in terms of the reason he dropped out. In August 1974, Bundy received a second acceptance from the University of Utah Law School and moved to Salt Lake City, leaving Chloe in Seattle. While he called Chloe often, he dated at least a dozen other women. 110, when he studied the first-year law curriculum a second time, he was devastated to find out that the other students had some intellectual capacity, that he did not. He found the classes completely incomprehensible. It was a great disappointment to me, he said. This came from Polly Nelson's book, and she was one of his lawyers. So if you have issues with my comment about him not keeping up with his peers, that comes straight from Ted himself. Double edit, to whomever gave me silver, thank you. Usually I respond to the gilding message with a thank you, but I got up to clean my fish tank and came back to like 60 comments, so I got a little overwhelmed. The You Bomber, that's your go-to insanely smart crazy person. Funnily enough also named Ted. I know the Netflix movie was not accurate. Ted Bundy romanticized himself. He didn't need to be romanticized because he did all of that on his own. He knew he was attractive and likable and he used that to his advantage. There were women fawning over him despite everything he was accused of, at the time. What I don't like, are people who say that Charles Manson was a genius. In no way, shape, or form was Charles Manson a genius, and his past interviews were just nonsensical bullshit that people read way too much into. Yup, Manson is a big dumb idiot that did some horrible things. He is the furthest thing from genius. He just used drugs to get people to listen to him and control them. What he did was terrible and he 100% deserved to die in that cell, but he is not a smart man. Pythagoras. He didn't make a \2 plus b \2 equals c \2 at his own. One of the students did, he made it better and proved it. Edit, grammar. How could you make that any better? Did his student misspell one of the letters or something? What is funny about ancient mathematics is that back in the day, they didn't even use algebraic notation. The modern algebraic notation is very recent, from the 1600s. Newton's books from the 1670s are already pretty modern, but before that, the notation was still somewhat inconsistent, which is why Lebesgue is well regarded for inventing calculus at the same time as Newton. He not only independently arrived to the same thing, but he also provided a consistent notation for it, which we still use today basically. Before that time, mathematics were spelled out, like the longest arm of the triangle that is rectangle can be determined by first multiplying one of the sides by itself, and then adding to that the other side multiplied by itself, and then of the result taking the quadratic root. Also consider that Indo-Arabic numerals weren't used in Europe until the Spanish kings popularized them around the year 1000. Before that it was a mix of Roman numerals, Greek numerals, letters indicating a number, and spelled out formulas. It was insane. His student wrote a 2 plus b2 equals this d as a joke, and Pythagoras was like, wait a minute, dick jokes aside, there might be something here.